behalf of the Board of Directors of Allegheny RiverStone Center for the Arts, we welcome you to this musical celebration honoring the inspiring life of ARCA's founder, president, and beloved friend, Dr. Arthur Steffee. I look around, those of us gathered here, we're blessed to know this man. There are family members, ARCA members, medical colleagues, and friends that he always called his greatest gift. We all have been the recipients of his vision and generosity, and for those of us who are ARCA members, gifted by his love of music and art that have brought us all together here today. We are people from all walks of life. Arthur loved everyone, and you felt it when he quietly listened to you, as you felt no one else had ever listened to you in your life. Perhaps it was the doctor, all those years of patient listening to his patients, and as he was describing what he was going to be doing in surgery. But we all felt that we were privileged. And here we are in this village that he built to appreciate music in broad genres that he loved. In this hall that he renovated from a medical center with drop ceilings and cubicles. But as we know about Arthur, vision was his gift. He could look at something and see something you wished you could have imagined. And so it was with this wonderful performance space. And here today we will experience something that he was so proud of through Allegheny RiverStone Center for the Arts, the organization that he founded with some of the people who are in this room. And since its first concerts in 2006, it has touched the lives of tens of thousands of people. And today in this concert featuring his favorite musicians, some of his favorite musicians, because we don't have bluegrass, and I see Karen and Bob Artis and Ernie over there. He loved musicians, and we are celebrating him with some of those who loved him and are so honored to be a part of this. Arthur Steffee was a humble giant and one of the most extraordinary people that most all of us have ever known. And he was a friend to everyone. He appreciated everyone's work. If you were a carpenter, a stonemason, a machine operator, a house painter, a watercolorist, a landscape painter, basket weaver, gardener, or musician, he appreciated excellence. And of course, we know his generosity is legendary. The stories in this community go on and on. And he gave without measure, unlike anything we've known. And his kindness and compassion, deep and unequaled. His mind was huge. If you ever had the chance to talk to him about something that you wondered if he would know about, but he already knew about it, or he was so curious he couldn't wait to find out about it. And he knew the Latin names of all the plants and the flowers, but he was tickled every time he learned something new. We know he loved building ponds, and he loved all the machines involved in making them. But it was also that childlike wonder that he had. I watched him when his sister Susan, who we're blessed to have here with us today, gave him for Christmas a very special book about the life of the forest, the consciousness of the forest. He was like a kid. And of course, Arthur wanted to buy it for everyone he knew, because it was such a marvelous gift. He had this extraordinary genius, and since Susan is here, I'll share that she once said that his genius, she felt, had been fired by the adversity and the tragedy that he had experienced. And that drove him with a passion to create, to contribute, to eliminate suffering, to create the beauty that we have seen all around us in day-type compartments. There is a tribute where his inspiration for these day-type compartments is described, but it was something that kept him in the moment, not in the past or the future. And we're blessed today. He was so humble he never talked about having been the genius inventor of the pedicle screw plate and the father of modern spine surgery. He was a guru to surgeons around the world and hundreds of thousands of people who benefited from it. Today, his longtime partner, and who at one time was his resident, is here. And would you like to say a few words, Luke?
Sure.
I will come on down.
I've known Art since I was a very young man. Knew him for most of my adult life. He was a legend in orthopedic surgery and spine surgery. And because we're here with the Arts today, he was a true virtuoso in surgery. But yet he had a lunchbox type of attitude. He saw himself as just a carpenter, but at the same time, when he was in the operating room, I'd always tell people that visited, I said, well, Art has fairy dust sprinkled over him, and what you're seeing today, don't try this at home. But anyway, the thing that allowed him to be so special and why surgeons from all over the world followed him is because he was completely genuine. It was not a matter of ego with him. He was completely genuine in his beliefs, and he knew it was the right thing to do, and he went at it with a passion. Now, you know what they say about pioneers? You can tell they're a pioneer because they have arrows in their back. And he at first, academia did not really embrace what Art was preaching, but nonetheless, all of us that were in the field that were working embraced it. And there was a very famous spinal surgeon in Cleveland by the name of Henry Bowman, who, you know, he was the god of spinal surgery in Cleveland. At least he thought he was. He was throwing barbs at Art, but at an academy meeting some years later, Henry came up to Art and he said, Art, I want to tell you something. You were right. And Art really appreciated the fact that this guy humbled himself and admitted to Art that he was right. But I was very lucky to have spent my time with Art. And you don't know you're in the presence of genius. I guess, you know, it's almost like spending time with Elon Musk. You know? But, his humbleness and his inventiveness, his passion, he was a Pied Piper. And it was infectious. So much infectious that Saji Daniel caught it and is carrying on the work that Art started at RiverStone. And we hope to share what Art's dream is throughout the entire world.
Is very sorry that she is not able to be here with us today because last week her beloved sister Sue's husband passed away. He was an extraordinary man. He was an NFL football player who played for the Vikings and 5 years for the Steelers. Those Steelers. And he met her sister when he was here in Pittsburgh. He went on to have a remarkable life, and not only working in finance, but also as a motivational speaker for Christian causes, and was an associate minister of the church, where his funeral will be tomorrow. So we're making a video for her, and I know that she very much would appreciate being a part of it in that way. But we are blessed today to have extraordinary musicians with us. First half is classical, second half is popular. These are artists that dazzled Art. He would be amazed in a concert and touched, moved to tears, and turn and say, wasn't that beautiful? And he always loved saying, you know, you could be anywhere in the world today, and you won't hear a concert as great as this one. And it's right here in this most beautiful place. Music touched him deeply, as we know, and it was a way in which he reached somehow to heaven as the veil seemed to part. And certainly that was at the end of his life, when he loved the Mahler finale of the Resurrection Symphony, I recommend go home, go to YouTube. Look up Mahler's Second Symphony, the finale of the Resurrection Symphony. Turn it up real loud and you will experience what Art was experiencing in his last days before he left us. So let us celebrate our beloved friend today with the artistry of these wonderful musicians. And we begin with someone who was very much a part of the ARCA history of concerts from the beginning, David Allen Ware with his partner, Cynthia Rame, who have performed here the extraordinary Rachmaninoff suites and duets that they recorded in the acclaimed recording that they had, which in the last days of Arthur's life, and by the way, I call him Arthur because when he married Mary Beth, he became Arthur and Mary Beth, but before he was always Art and Patty. So I kind of go between. I know that I do that, but it's all with a sense of love. But that in his last days, he found the most amazing speakers, Wilson audio speakers, and he would play the works of the two artists that you heard and be absolutely dazzled by not only the artistry, but what touched him the most, which was the emotion that was also conveyed. Please welcome David Allen Ware.
First, I'm going to say some words about Rachmaninoff. The Sorokas know that at my concerts I like to talk to the audience for a little bit and give you a little bit of background, get you ready for what you're going to hear, then I'll say a couple words about Dr. Steffee. Sergei Rachmaninoff at the age of 18 was on top of the world. He had just graduated from the Moscow Conservatory with unprecedented double gold medals in piano and composition, and he was ready to go out and conquer the world. Well, the world wasn't quite ready for him. And within 2 years, he was unemployed and worried about paying his rent and his bills. So he took a job teaching at a girls' school outside of Moscow. We don't know very much about this period. We know that Rachmaninoff was grumpy. He didn't really like teaching students who were probably not very talented. He wasn't writing a lot of music at this time, but one thing he did write was a set of 6 pieces to be played 4 hands, 2 people at 1 piano. Maybe he wrote these for the students at the girls' school. We don't know. But the works have been pretty much neglected, and they're very rarely heard in live performance. There are 6 of them. The first is a barcarolle. Barca is the Italian word for boat. And so a barcarolle originally was the music that was sung by the gondoliers in Venice, Italy, as they pulled their gondolas up and down the canal. Well, since these are gondoliers singing, and by definition they're Italian, of course, the songs are about love. This particular barcarolle seems like the love didn't go as well as people might have wanted to, because it's a sad barcarolle. The next piece, however, is very happy. It's a scherzo, the Italian word for joke, and so it's very playful. The music stops and starts all over the place. You never know what's going to happen next. Number 3 is a Russian theme, which is pretty self-explanatory. Number 4 is a waltz. Number 5 is a romance. And the suite ends with a movement called Slava. Slava literally means magnificent or great in Russian, but in this context, it's a specific Russian folk tune that many composers have used over the years, Beethoven and Mussorgsky most notably, but Rachmaninoff loved it, and so this is his version, and you can hear the church bells and the generals on horseback. It's a very grandiose send-off for the set, which lasts about 27 minutes. I first met Dr. Steffee in February of 2010. I remember it very, very specifically. That was Snowmageddon. Snowmageddon, yes, I see the heads. Yeah, Pittsburgh had 30 inches of snow when we were expecting 3. And a lot of the city shut down. We were without power for about 2 weeks. And when the thermostat started getting down to the 40s and the dogs were just shivering, my partner Kip and I decided we were going to evacuate, and we threw the dogs in the car and we drove up to Emlenton, where Kip's mother lives on Metz Road. She had a working fireplace and she had power. All right, that's fine, but I'm a concert pianist and I still had concerts that I had to prepare for. So we started thinking, where might there be a piano? And word had it that there was a piano upstairs from the library. Okay, so we called the library and said, is there any way that we might be able to use the piano? And they weren't sure who is this person who's calling, wanting to use the piano. So we jumped through the hoops necessary for that, and before the day was over, we had a call from Dr. Steffee. Little birds had told him that there was someone playing the piano in the library that maybe he should know about. And 2 days later, I was playing at Dr. Steffee and Pat's house for an ARCA board meeting. Now, I wasn't planning to play a recital right then. I was practicing other stuff, but professionals know that you always have things in your hip pocket. And that began my relationship with Dr. Steffee as a host gift to him and Pat for hosting us. I gave him a couple of recordings that I had made, including one that Cynthia and I had made of Rachmaninoff that turned out to be one of his favorites, for which we're very grateful. And my first official concert for ARCA in 2012, they actually brought in a second Steinway, and Cynthia and I both played then, and we've both been very frequent guests here. It's been very meaningful for us to be part of Dr. Steffee's inner circle of musicians. Other people are talking about his generosity and his many other great qualities. But the thing that I will always remember most about Dr. Steffee was the genuine emotional connection he made with the music that he loved and the musicians that he cared about. I don't know that I ever had a conversation with him where Kleenex weren't needed. I mean, it was so genuine and so heartfelt, and I know he's listening today, and we're so happy to be here to celebrate him.
I met Arthur in 2007, and when I met him, I didn't even believe I was meeting him because I was hearing about a Dr. Steffee, and the person I was meeting was named Art, or Arthur. I know there's more than one in the world, but he was on a big dirt digger. He was digging out the, I think the foundation for the hotel here in Foxburg, and so this sweaty construction worker came over, and you know, it was like, it took me a while to dawn that that was Dr. Steffee, and that he was the classical music lover and all that stuff. So that was a wonderful introduction to him. My most recent memory was he took me on his Jeep down the sled run that he was doing with his dog running beside us, and that was quite something. But I just loved Art, and the way he would listen to music. It just made me want to be my very, very best, because he would cry when you play. You know, he would be so into it, and it was just fantastic. Now, the pieces that I'm going to be playing are kind of, in a way, selected for him. They're not quite classical, so this is fun for me. The first one is called Dawn, and it's from the movie Pride and Prejudice. And I knew Pride and Prejudice, but I wasn't really aware of this music, but he loved it. And so Kathy said, oh, you know, you should learn this for Art. So I did, and he had never heard anybody play it in person. And Kathy told me that he would play it every morning as the dawn would come up. So that's the piece I'm starting with, and then The Man I Love is obvious. Reference to Art. He never heard me play that one, and anyway, it'll go on from there.
To the Red Brick Gallery for a marvelous reception catered by Don Raz with desserts from the Crow's Cupboard and the Weavers exhibit on the second floor, but food on both floors and drink for those who cannot do the stairs. So see you shortly. For those of you who know that Arthur also preferred classical music, there were popular musicians who he enjoyed very much. And so the second half will feature them. But I would like very much to introduce someone who has been very close to Arthur over the years. In fact, as you probably know from the tribute, the Ralph Cloward Life's Greatest Gifts, which Art would read at gatherings, and in the last stanza could not make it without his voice breaking. That was something that he had framed and given to his dear friends. And Dr. Dennis Keyes, formerly my dentist, now retired, a marvelous photographer, a Red Brick Gallery cooperative artist, and a longtime ARCA board member, was the one that helped him make that gift of friendship. And as a result, they have had a very special relationship. On behalf of the board of directors, Dennis Keyes is going to share some remarks about art.
Thank you, Debbie. I'm deeply grateful to ARCA and John and Kathy Soroka for giving me this opportunity to say a few words in tribute to ARCA's founder and visionary, my good friend, my hero, Dr. Arthur David Steffee. Whether you know it or not, if you are here today, art touched your life. This grand music hall, the businesses in town, and the RiverStone estate were all a part of Art's dreams for the Allegheny Clarion Valley. The supremely talented performers you hear today all had special connections to art and were a part of his dreams to share with all of us. I have to believe that Art's vision attracted the new owners of RiverStone to build upon his dream with dreams of their own. Dr. Lou Kepler and Cindy, and Saji and Shem and Daniel will take RiverStone and Foxburg a quantum leap to heights we could not even have imagined. The French Renaissance nobleman Michel de Montaigne was obsessed with the same kinds of questions that philosophers before and after him have pondered through the ages. Dr. Arthur Steffee often pondered those same questions. How to get on well with people, how to be of service to your fellow man, how to adjust to losing someone you love, how to live, and how to die. Until his death in 1592, Montaigne wrote free-roaming explorations of the thoughts and experiences unlike anything ever written before. Art and I, as well as many of his friends, entertained similar thoughts, which led us all to many interesting conversations. I have to believe that Montaigne and like-minded philosophers helped to guide Art in the way he chose to live his life. Art was never pretentious. He was often mistaken by a visitor as a gardener or a maintenance man. He made the time to talk with anyone who wanted to know him. Montaigne once wrote, "On the highest throne in the world, we all still sit only on our own ass." Art knew that the arms of friendship are long enough to reach from one end of the world to the other, and he embraced countless friends all over the globe. As part of the dreams he had for Foxburg, Art was determined to complete the bike trail between Emlenton and Foxburg. He donated much of the railroad corridor and loaned his heavy equipment and operators to our trail group, asking us only, "What do you need?" Art's the reason that I got involved in the Allegheny River Trail in Clarion County in the first place. Just a few months ago, I took him to see our volunteers installing one of the cross drains along the mile north of Foxburg. We walked a short way, and his smile told me that he was very pleased that his dream was coming along. I wish he had lived to see it fulfilled. I hope I lived that long. In one of our conversations, Art acknowledged that it was a Swedish dentist who did the first successful titanium to bone implant. It was a simple serendipitous discovery which led to the most important turning point in the history of implants, which in turn led to Art's experimentation and development of spinal implants. Without his pioneering work and the talented hands of his student and partner, Dr. Lou Kepler, I would most likely have been home in a wheelchair. Art started out his surgical career as a hand surgeon, so he took great interest in hearing of my terrible experience when an amazing hand surgeon saved my career. Montaigne once quipped, "There were many terrible things in my life, but most of them never happened." but most of them did happen to Art. He lost the people closest to him more than once, but he always found someone to love who loved him in return. I was fortunate to know his late wife, Patty, a loving, gentle spirit who worked with him in his medical practice and helped him to create RiverStone. And then he found the sweet and kind Mary Beth, who had aided him in the development of Stone Ridge, their retirement home. It's just unfortunate that tragedy continues to follow her. She can't be here. Consider a few of Montaigne's other observations on life and death. It depends on your will and your purpose, and not upon the number of your days to have a sufficient length of life. The great and glorious masterpiece of man is to live and to love with purpose. And when you become aware that your time here is growing short, if you don't know how to die, don't worry. Nature will tell you what to do on the spot, fully and adequately. She will do this job perfectly for you, so don't bother your head about it one little bit. Montaigne's wish, as was Art's, was always to be doing things, prolonging life's joys and duties as much as we can. Montaigne said, "When death comes for me, I want him to find me planting my cabbages, neither worrying about death nor my ever unfinished gardening." Art certainly embodied that same wish. We need to be sorry for Art. Our sorrow is for ourselves that we must go on without him. His was a magnificent life, a shining example of what we should all aspire to be, a way that just came natural to him. If anyone should ask me why I loved Art, I could feel it no otherwise be expressed better than by answering, because it was he, because it was I. God rest ye our merry gentleman, Dr. Arthur David Steffee.
Because for many years, the pianist Dennis Geib has produced a very successful and well-attended, beloved concert in his church in Franklin, and we are bringing him and Evan Wolfgang, who's also here, and it'll be 4 singers and 4 pianists in a wonderful celebration of Christmas. Students and children are free, and tickets are $15, and we hope to be sold out, so be sure to reserve early. But without further ado, let me introduce to you the next pianist who also had an extraordinarily rich relationship with art, Dennis Geib.
Real quick, I tell you how I met Arthur. It was like, Dr. Jen said, "You should get down to Foxburg, Dennis. There's a man down there, I think he would appreciate the way you play the piano." And I thought about it. A couple of months go by, and finally I had that urge to come down. So I went down to the Allegheny Grill, and I was all excited to meet Dr. Steffee or find somebody who could tell me how to meet him. And the door was locked, had a chain on it. I rattled him on. I started to turn, all of a sudden the door opened up, and this guy goes, "Can I help you?" And I thought I was the gardener, had a Russian hat on, big boots. And I said, "I was looking for Dr. Arthur Steffee." And he said, "I'm Arthur Steffee." And when I told him about Dr. Gent telling me to come down, next thing I know, he's got me on a four-wheeler driving all around his property up there. Took me in, and make a long story short, I played for him a little bit, and then I ended up coming down and doing quite a few events for him. And one of the things he really got a kick out of is I would bring these young prodigy pianists down. I'm talking 9 and 10 years old, right? Nicholas Nasibian, who's going to be in the Christmas concert, when I first introduced him to Arthur, we had to find something low enough so his feet could touch the pedals on the big piano up there. And Art got a kick out of that. But I want to share something with you that's very personal. When I would play for Arthur, at the end of the night, he would say, "Don't go." Everybody else had left, but he'd tell me, "Don't go." And the first time he did that, I wasn't sure what was going to happen. Pat was in the kitchen kind of cleaning up, and then she retired. And he took my hand and put his other hand on my shoulder. And he said to me, "Dennis," he go. I want you just to play for me. In other words, just play for him. Nobody else was around. We went in the parlor. He had that big 9'6" Steinway up there in the big house. And he'd sit in the chair. And I did music therapy for years. And one of the things I discovered when I watched Arthur is what I named my first CD in honor of all that. Movies of the Mind. He would close his eyes and he was spiritually traveling through time. And I would watch the expressions on his face, from being serious to crying. We all know Art cried. It made me cry. And what I did was, when I was invited to come play, I thought the best thing I could do would be to write a song. And I named it just for him. And if you can imagine, if you imagine just a chair there, and Arthur sitting in it. And what I tried to do when I wrote this composition was to portray some of the facial expressions and what I felt spiritually from Arthur. So I'm going to play this for you now. It's the first time I played it out, but it's called Just for Him.
Thank you.
Blue skies on me, nothing but blue. skies do I see? Bluebirds singing a song, nothing but blue skies from now on. I never saw the sun shining so bright, wondering love, everything's right. Watching all the days hurrying by, wondering love, my how they fly, those blue days. All of them gone, nothing but blue skies from now on. Yeah. Blue skies surrounding me, nothing but blue skies do I see. Sing a song, nothing but blue skies from now on. I never saw the sun shining so bright, wondering love, everything's right. Watching all the days hurrying by, wondering love, now how they fly through days. All they're gone, nothing but blue skies, nothing but blue skies, nothing but blue skies from now on. I see trees of green, red roses too. I watch them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I hear birds cry, I watch them grow, they'll learn much more than I will ever know, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbows, pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? But they're really saying, I love you. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, oh, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, saying how do you do. They're really saying I love you. I see trees of green and red roses too. I watch them bloom from me to you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I think to myself, what a wonderful